This is a clear violation of the rules. Your unauthorized concrete pour is unacceptable. Get that truck out of here immediately.
We have the permits right here.
You are trespassing.
At 6:03 a.m. on May 14, 2024, I opened my front door to the sound of metal shovels clanging and a cement truck idling like a giant clearing its throat. Cold air rushed in, smelling like wet dirt and fresh concrete. Floodlights washed my porch in white glare. Two workers were spreading gray mix right over the edge of my porch like it was a sidewalk extension. My welcome mat was curled up like it wanted to escape. In the driveway, a tow truck sat with amber lights blinking, waiting like a vulture. I stood there blinking, half awake, watching my own porch vanish under a smooth slab, and I heard the HOA president tell the crew, "Keep it straight to the steps." That's when the whole nightmare became one sentence in my head: HOA paved my porch over my plat map, then the tow slip hit the courtroom screens. This wasn't beautification. It was a land grab. It's deeded to my lot. Not shared. And they were treating my front steps like a public trail. I tried to stop it the normal way, with words and paperwork, not yelling. I held up my plat map folder and said, "This is my porch line." The woman in the robe didn't even look at it. She pointed at my car and said, "You're blocking HOA work." The tow driver stepped closer and asked, "Want it towed now or after the pour?" I said, "No, absolutely not." The board rep arrived in a polo shirt holding a clipboard and acted bored. He told me the board approved it. Then he added, "You can appeal later." Neighbors across the street peeked through blinds and disappeared. By 8:40 a.m., my appeal was already denied without a hearing. I emailed the board with my plat map attached and asked for a work order, a vote record, and the legal basis for altering my porch. The reply came at 9:02 a.m. One line. The area is considered common access. I walked over to two neighbors I thought would at least nod at reality. One stared at their shoes and said, "I don't want trouble." The other shrugged like my porch was weather. That's when I felt something cold settle in my chest. They weren't just pouring concrete. They were betting I'd stay quiet. I drew my line that day, and I drew it with boring rules. Proper channels only. No threats. No stunts. On May 15th, I went to the county records office, the one with the squeaky chairs and the old coffee smell that clings to the hallway. At the clerk counter, I asked for my lot plat, any recorded easements, and any HOA maps tied to common access. The clerk came back with a stamped packet that thudded on the counter. The file landed with 68 pages. My porch was clearly inside my boundary line, with measurements that didn't leave room for interpretation. Back home, I turned into the most annoying kind of person, organized. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. I printed my closing survey, my plat map, and my property tax card. I saved security camera clips showing the crew stepping onto my porch at 6:03 a.m. I took close-up photos of wet concrete creeping past my porch trim. Timeline item 1 May 14th at 6:03 a.m. HOA crew begins pour onto porch, tow truck staged in driveway. Then I did something simple that felt almost unfair. I requested the tow paperwork from the tow company, because they had been way too confident. The tow company tried to play shy until I reminded them I was asking for my own records and I had the date and truck number from my camera. On May 18th, they emailed a scanned tow slip with the signature block and the authorization line. No words were more revealing than a form that didn't know it was snitching. It listed my address, the time, and the reason, private property obstruction, requested by HOA president. It also listed the property type as common area, which made me laugh once, sharp and bitter. They had typed a lie into a box and hoped it became truth. I didn't march into the HOA office to scream. I filed a formal complaint with code enforcement for unpermitted concrete work and possible encroachment, then submitted a towing complaint with the city's consumer line. I attached the plat map, the stamped county pages, my photos, and that tow slip. I kept my wording plain and calm. On May 23rd at 1:10 p.m., a county inspector called and asked, "Do you have proof the porch is yours?" I said, "Yes, and I can show the pins on the survey." He paused and said, "Good. Because if they poured without a permit, that's a problem. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted." He didn't say it like a threat. He said it like a fact. On May 28 at 10:30 a.m., the inspector arrived with a tape measure and a clipboard, and the HOA president showed up like she could outstare a measuring tool. He checked the county file, walked my boundary, and looked at the fresh slab. He noted the lack of a visible permit card and asked for the contractor information. The board rep tried to talk fast, but the inspector cut him off with a calm hand. Then the towing complaint officer joined on speakerphone and asked about the staged tow truck. When I mentioned the tow slip, there was a long silence. The officer said, "Email it now." I did. 5 minutes later, the HOA president stopped smiling. The public reaction didn't hit like fireworks. It hit like whispers turning into a wave. That afternoon, I saw two neighbors standing by their mailboxes pretending to chat while their phones were clearly recording. A guy down the street said, "I heard they poured on your porch." That's wild. A mom pushing a stroller whispered, "I kept every fine they ever sent me." Someone in the group chat wrote, "Is this why the budget has concrete repairs every year?" Another replied, "I thought I was crazy for questioning them." A teenager said, "My dad says never talk without paper." A retired neighbor finally looked me in the eye and said, "I'm sorry I didn't speak up. I was scared they'd tow me next." Even the HOA cheerleader type walked past and muttered, "This is getting out of hand." The authority flip came in two parts, and both parts stung them where it hurt. First, on June 4 at 9:15 a.m., code enforcement issued a stop work notice and a correction order for unpermitted concrete work and encroachment onto a recorded private structure. They cited the county plat and the site measurement, and they required removal or a permitted redesign signed by the owner, which was me. Second, on June 6 at 2:05 p.m., the city towing officer sent a letter stating the tow authorization was improper because the HOA didn't have standing to order a private property tow from my driveway for a project on my porch. The tow slip mattered because it showed intent, timing, and who requested it, not just what they claimed later. That's when you could feel the spell break across the neighborhood, and it happened in a room full of folding chairs. At the next HOA meeting, people sat straighter like they'd been waiting for permission to breathe. Phones were out in the open, not hidden, recording every word. Nobody laughed at the president's jokes. When she tried to interrupt, a homeowner calmly said, "Let him finish." Someone asked for the permit number. Someone else asked for the contractor license. Another neighbor asked why the tow truck was staged before any violation happened. The board rep kept clearing his throat like he could cough up a new reality. The HOA president looked around, blinking hard, like she couldn't believe the room had stopped giving her oxygen. After that, the aftermath rolled in like quiet cleanup after a storm. On June 18, a licensed crew arrived with saws and protective boards and cut the slab back to my true porch edge. They patched the damage and smoothed the surface so my steps were mine again. The HOA reimbursed my filing fees, which came to $240, and the tow company issued a written apology for staging on my driveway. The board sent a community notice admitting the project crossed onto private property and was reversed. No names, of course. Just a lot of passive language. But everyone knew. The best part was the smallest. One neighbor brought me iced water while I watched the repairs and said, "You did the right thing." Inside the neighborhood, the second shift kept growing, slow and real. People started saving emails instead of deleting them. Homeowners asked for minutes and budgets like it was normal, because it is. The group chat turned from gossip into receipts, with folks sharing how to request records and how to appeal fines. Parents at the bus stop talked in daylight instead of whispering behind car doors. Phones still came out at meetings, but it wasn't for drama. It was for documenting. The board stopped using big voices and started using smaller words, because paper doesn't care how loud you are. The bully didn't disappear, but she lost that easy power that comes from everyone else staying quiet. On July 2, 2024, I sat on my repaired porch with my Plat map open on my lap like a weird little victory flag. I flipped to the stamped page, ran a finger over the raised seal, and then closed the binder with a soft thump. The funniest part is they tried to bury my porch under concrete, and the thing that buried their story was a plain toe slip on a courtroom screen. I didn't win by being louder. I won by being clearer. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and share. Was the HOA wrong? Drop a comment.